I need to put the word out that there is hope when you feel hopeless and when it doesn't look like anything's ever going to get better, that there are victory stories, and
Yeah,
this is
that's
a
good.
victory story.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 182. You just heard a clip from my friend Sally, and the timing of this episode couldn't be more perfectly. I've been talking to Sally for some time, wanting her on the podcast, and February 3rd, 2017 marks the sobriety date for Kayla, who is the center of the story here. And I really appreciate Sally being vulnerable and sharing with us her journey and just the hope in the story that she's found. And I've gotten to meet Kayla over the years, and every time I see her, she's a special woman, and I'm grateful to know her and Sally and Josh and Henry, and just they've all been great friends to me, and so I'm grateful for that. And I'm so happy that we got to record this. So without further ado, here's the rest of the talk with Sally Olson.
Yeah, I love the story that has resulted from what was really the most terrifying, the hardest part of my whole entire life was this that time with Kayla. She's my youngest, and in 2017, she graduated high school early with a scholarship. She turned 18, and she went on a little trip with her cousin and came back addicted to meth. So June of 2017, my daughter really changed. She wasn't even the same girl. Now, at first, I thought it was just something we could deal with, something we would get over, something I could fix. And turned out that was not the case. It escalated, and it just evolved into being the worst nightmare of anybody's life. We were always very close. We were very connected. We actually shared our spiritual journeys that kept us very in line with one another. And then, so when this demon came in from the outside and just started to take over, it changed everything about her. Physically, she, disintegrated into barely. She just got so thin, and I would look in her eyes, and there just wasn't any spirit behind there. It was just really a scary, scary time.
Wow. So what was was there anything like, okay, so that's interesting, because I think
Yeah,
like with drugs and substances, there's always like I don't know if natural is the right word. There's curiosity to try things, but I mean, right, drinking and getting drunk is different than, you said,
yeah,
meth, right? Right.
yeah.
So what
Well,
was the like?
unfortunately, with meth,
Yeah, yeah,
it can really take a hold, and
right.
the addiction can set in quite quickly with some people, and with her, yeah,
Yeah, you get
it
hooked like
just
right away. Yeah.
really took over. And when we first started having like the dramas started, occurring here in the house and everything, and we would have the police involved, our neighbors would be calling police and everything. They come and they say, "Oh, she's been on this a long time," and I'd say, "No, it's been 3 months." And
Oh,
they were
wow.
like, "No,
Okay.
she appeared, it's just something about her. It just consumed her very quickly." And in between the runs, it was sort of cycles of using until your body shuts down, can't do anymore, and then it crashes. And then you just have this recovery time. And then there's a transition where you're coming out of recovery. And it was really at those moments that, like, she was at her worst. She was just angry. If I looked at her wrong, she would just lash out at me. And I mean, literally throwing things, yelling, breaking everything. Just, I don't know
Yeah.
what it was, coming unglued. And then she would have to get back out there and get some
Right.
more of the
What year was this?
drug.
You said 18, so because now this is, I feel like this has like been like a few years at least. 4
Yeah.
years.
Well, I will say, it's a beautiful story because she's been recovered more than 5 years. We're going to be actually February 3rd, she's going to have her 6 year of, wait a minute, 17. Oh, I think I got my dates wrong. I
Oh,
think it was,
20, you said 2017?
I did, but you know what? That was her recovery date, February 3rd, 2017. And God's
Wow.
had her in his hands and she's been recovered since then. Actually, it was 2015 that we started all that. I'm sorry.
So we're about to have, because today's the 31st of January. So
Yeah,
that means that you're coming up on, look at, well, there you go. Look at
six
the
years.
timing of recording the podcast right on.
I
I did
know.
this with Hallie Gong. I had her on, and it was right when she was celebrating like a milestone
Mhm.
with like the day that we streamed it or and stuff. It was
Yeah,
rad. It was rad.
yeah,
So 2, 3, 7 since 2015, or
yeah.
no?
She
You
started. She started in 2015 in June, but her recovery was since February 3rd of 2017.
got it. So it was like two
Yeah,
years of real
it
intense,
was
and
close to it, and it was just really, really hard. And I just over the time of this cycle of use, crash, try to recover, and go out and use again, it was just so depleting for me. And every time she would come home, I would be so grateful, so excited. Okay, this is it. This is the time. She's resting. She's sleeping in her room. I would be comfortable and I would be hopeful that this was it. This, I could get a hold of her now. We could get her some help and, you know, get her on the road to recovery. And then, disappointingly enough, 3 to 5 days after she'd come home to rest, then she would be gone again and it would go again. And it was just a cycle. And it was just over the months and the year, um,
yeah,
I just lost myself. It was just became impossible to work, to live life, to enjoy my grandkids. Life just stopped, and I became what I want to say addicted to my addict. All that
hmm,
mattered to me was getting her home and safe and recovering. And every time she would come, it would cost me like $80. I would buy peanut butter and chocolate and all that. Just she would just eat like ravenously, and I didn't mind feeding her, but I was just feeding a
right.
beast that was just going to take off on me again and go do it again. It
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
really hard.
So she was living with you? Is that what also kind of made it
Well, she
hard,
was.
or she was trying to live with you? Because that's the proximity there. That's a lot of,
She was
you know.
living with me, and I had lots of. I wanted to say too that any parent going through this, you're going to get a lot of outside advice and
Right,
whatnot, and some of it was just beyond what I could even do. Like, oh well, all the drama in the house. I mean, my house was being destroyed. There was doors pulled off the hinge, just windows broken, everything.
right,
And not to mention me, every time I walk in the house, I would duck and dodge because everything within reach would be thrown at me. I was the enemy at the time. And so everybody was like, you need to just kick her out. You need to kick her out. But I could never do that because I was like, I have to be able to sleep at night. And if I kick her out and don't allow her to come home
hmm,
to recover, if something happened to her, I wouldn't be able to live with myself. I could never quite cut that tie. But
right,
toward the end of this 2 year journey, I did learn through some gentle pastoring from my pastor, Nathan, at church, and other things. I sought out a little bit of Al Anon, and I learned how to love well. Sometimes it is tough.
right,
So I did
right.
get a little tougher on things at the end, and that did give God room to move, and we were able to ultimately come to the recovery date. But yeah,
Hmm.
it wasn't easy. It's not
Wow.
easy.
So
Not easy.
yeah, like what? Well, let me go back to something because I think sometimes the
Yeah.
assumption is that like addiction kind of is a way of um, you know, coping with depression or anxiety,
Mm,
trauma, pain, and
yeah,
it's not always the case, but it seems to be very high percentage. I mean, I know even myself with my own bipolar
yeah,
stuff, I had a lot
yeah,
of stuff as a kid that, you know, anyway.
yeah,
But I think it was when do you ever get
uh,
was there
yeah,
like a precursor to that or no? It really was just more like
yeah,
the cousin was being dumb and trying drugs with her and
yeah.
then
No, no.
yeah.
There were many things leading up to it. I would say from the time she was 12 and up.
Okay.
I think a lot of it had to do with her relationship with her dad at the time.
Okay.
It had to do with the circle of friends that she surrounded herself with. She was always very bright and good in school, but the social draw was very strong with Kayla. I had a hard time keeping her home from 11 or 12 years old on. You know, she would take off to the park to hang out with people and stuff, you know, so there was a lot. She did go through some abusive relationships, even though she was too young to be having them, you know. We wish our kids would wait, but she got into some bad relationships, um, boyfriends, whatnot. And a lot of this just led to a lot of rejection and just yeah, a lot of her mental and emotional health was related to a lot of the social things that she was open to. But like I said, in her healing and recovery, she's worked through a lot of that and learning, you know, how that played a part in allowing her to be open to something like this addiction to come in. But and it was hard for me at the time because, of course, you
Yeah.
know, I wanted to take the blame. Like, and that's one reason I would bend over backwards for her, even through the horrible stuff. Was I felt responsible. It had to be my fault, right? I was her mother. It's funny you could raise five kids in the same situation, like, but everybody's different. Everybody views the world different, and I was just so glad that she did have the Lord in her heart, even through all this, you know, and He didn't leave her.
Right.
And even though she went through all of this, He sustained her and brought her out of it, gave her the strength to come through it.
So what was the first like recovery step though? Like was it rehab or because the I
Well,
know about the
yeah,
home she's in now, but like what was the first kind of
yeah.
transition point of like I'm getting
Well,
sober, you
I
know?
would say around a year later, around a year into it, there was a lot of legal problems. She got arrested, released like many, many, many times. And there was one event that happened here at the house that culminated in her going into jail without being released
Okay.
in 5 hours, you know. And they held her. And one thing led to another, and they transferred her from the local West Valley over to Glen Helen. And while she was there, she was due to get out of there. Of course, she was sobering up. Uh, I think it was around 8 days she was there. And then a chickenpox outbreak broke out there, and they shut the whole place down for 30 days. Nobody's coming or going for 30 days.
Oh wow.
And I was like, wow, that was a God move because that put her there for 30 days. And during that 30 days, she was leading Bible studies. She was encouraging all the women there. They asked the guards if they could have prayer and study outside.
Hmm.
And there was five of them praying in a circle. And all
Okay.
the other girls, a lot of the girls from the yard came and they ended up with like 100 people. And so, I mean, she was already on the move right then. And when she came out of that, when she got released, she was determined to stick with her recovery. And we got her into a rehab through Kaiser. It was in Riverside, Rubidoux, Riverside, and it was great. She was there for, I think she stayed 3 months, and her boyfriend, meanwhile, that she had picked up along the way during this nightmarish addiction,
Right.
He was in West Valley also for like extended time, 3 months. So he was sobering up. She was sober. She was in recovery. Everything
Mm.
looked good. So when he got out, it wasn't, I think, within 3 weeks, they both fell again. So all of that down the tubes. And once they fell again, they were just back into it just as much as before. So that's where we went the second year or 9 months, I think, before finally getting to our victory day, which I can't wait to get to in this conversation. But uh, yeah, things got really bad. And hope, see, that was the thing, is throughout all this, hope was just fading, right? So for me
Mm.
personally, uh, I mean, the boyfriend, I literally tried to kill him right outside of this thing. And I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah, yeah,
I keep telling him
yeah.
to leave her alone, leave her home, let her home. He goes, I just want to check on her. I just want to see if she's okay. Kayla, Kayla. And he's yelling at her. Oh my gosh, I would try everything to keep him away. And I came home at lunch and I saw him out here on his bike and everything. And I was like, I told you never to come around here. And I pinned him with my car up against the fence. And his eyes were so big. He was like, you're going to kill me. I go, I am serious. You need to leave her alone. Yeah, it was just horrible. And, but
Don't
now,
don't don't get in the way of the mama bear
oh
energy.
my God.
The moms will
But
destroy the
I'll just
mama bear
fast
will
forward to the
destroy
fact that
you.
I love him dearly right now. And
I don't know
he's
why I'm
also
laughing.
serving.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
funny in hindsight. It's probably not. Probably wasn't
Uh,
funny when you were doing it. It was serious, but
he's recovered and he's a great
yeah.
man of God right now. So I love him to death.
Okay.
But that is
Got
funny.
you.
We joke about that. Yeah, but that was not funny at the time. I meant it. But what that did for me was just show me how it just went places in my own heart that I didn't ever want to go, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well,
so soon after that,
there's a desperation, I think, with just being a
yeah,
mom, which I don't relate to being a mom, but I know my own mom and
yeah,
family going through the stuff I went with being suicidal, and it's just
yeah,
there's nothing you wouldn't do for your kids, and I think
I know.
addiction or mental despair when things are out of control, that's
Yeah,
you're tapping into something that's instinctual, but I do think it's part of our design to like fight for people to yeah, I'm very inspired by listening to, the details of this. And but yeah, anyway, so as it
yeah,
progresses, like you can get to the what you mean, you can get to the victory day. We don't have to whatever you want to share, but
yeah. No, it's always
yeah,
darkest before the dawn. And
yeah, yeah.
so things got pretty bad. Yeah. And, like for instance, at Christmas, Josh and Kayla's dad and I were sitting at Denny's for our Christmas meal because when you're going through something like this, it's really hard to find space to celebrate anything. And
Right,
my
right.
relationships with my other kids and my grandkids were strained because, you know, my focus on Kayla, and it was just too much for them to. They were all hurting. It just addiction affects every single person in the family, and we were all suffering. But anyway, at Christmas, we were at Denny's, look out the window, and there she is, and she was just so thin, and her clothes were just falling off her, and her face was just so distraught, and she was just focused on trying to find somebody. And I went out there and I said, come in and eat. And she's like, I can't. I would see her on the streets, and she was like a stranger. It was just really horrifying. But I was out on the streets always looking for her and always trying to intervene and always trying to cause, a different outcome. But
Right,
what I
right.
wanted to say was, at this point, I went to the Al-Anon, and I didn't stay there. I only went a couple of times, but I did learn some key points. And one was the 3 C's that helped me a lot, was that I didn't cause it, that I can't cure it,
Hmm.
and I can't control it. So once I learned to try to stop controlling her and her addiction, and let things naturally occur, it got better for me anyway. And I think it gave her space to face her consequences. Like I stopped spending $100 every time she'd come home to buy all the junk food she wanted to eat and try to buck her back up. She got really
Hmm.
pretty upset with me actually for starting to withhold some things. And then another thing I learned was I was encouraged to detach myself emotionally from what was going on with her. That was really hard, but yeah,
Hmm. So that was that's really good. So I'll just
yeah.
you didn't cause it, you can't cure it, you can't control it.
Hmm.
And that was before Celebrate Life Humanity, or you said that was a different group, or that
Oh,
was
it was Al-Anon.
oh, Al-Anon. That's right. Okay, and what is that again? That's the group for parents of
Well, it was Narcanon, I
person.
guess. I guess it was
Yeah.
Narcanon. It was for parents and family members of addicts. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you started going to that, and then how did you
Yeah.
get involved with Well, if yeah, how did you get involved with Monday? This was
Yeah.
before that,
Well, actually, throughout the years, Kayla was
right?
involved with Celebrate Recovery also. And
Oh, okay.
he would have these 2 weeks or whatever, these times of sobriety where she was trying to get clean, stay clean, and all that. And so she was not unfamiliar with Celebrate Recovery.
Okay.
So during one of her clean times, she said, "Oh yeah, there's a group Monday night. I want you to take me. Celebrate recovery." And I said, "Okay." So I took her, and she went in there, and the ladies really loved up on her and really came around her, and she came out like, "Oh yeah, I love that. I'm going to come back next week." And I
Okay.
said, "That's great." Well, next week came, she was already gone back out. She made her 5 days, 7 days re- recovery, and then went back out to go use again, back in the streets. So I went to the Monday night to tell the ladies, thank you for loving her so well. She really did enjoy her time here. She
Hmm.
intended to come back,
Yeah.
but the streets called to her and she's gone, so keep her in prayer. So they said, well, why don't you stay? And I'm like, no, I'm good. I
Yeah,
don't
I
have
think
any
I've
addictions or
heard you.
problems.
Yeah, I've heard you tell this story
Yeah.
before. Like
So
you
this
were
is
coming from.
hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're like, you just stay. And I'm like, no, I'm good. And then, yeah, that is in my testimony. And then they're like,
Sure.
just
Yeah.
stay with us,
Tell
let's
us all
talk.
your
And then,
problems now. No, I'm
yeah.
kidding.
So, well, I didn't have any. I didn't have any problems because I was so
uh,
consumed.
gotcha.
I was so addicted to my addict. I didn't have it. I didn't even know myself.
Hmm.
But yeah. So I stayed, and then I ended up come back, and then now I'm, all these years later, still there. But yeah, it's a good program. It's a good program for support in whether you're
Right.
a problem or you have a lot of people in your life that are problems. It's all good. It helped me to learn how to um, regain my own life back because I really had lost Sally in all of this. Um, that really culminated to a day at work where
Hmm.
I was just so out of it. I was hanging on by a thread, and I was so out of hope, and I was so out of faith that God was going to do anything because to me there was a lot of opportunities he could have moved and he didn't. I mean, she was home. Why didn't you just keep her home with me? Why is she gone again? And then I was at work and I was like, okay, fine. You're not going to help me. Devil, take your hands off her and,
Hmm.
you know, and just take me instead. And then the Lord told me,
Hmm.
he's a liar. He's not going to, he'll take you, but he's not going to take his hands off her. He's going to take you both. And I'm like,
Hmm.
well, now I'm stuck. I don't know where to turn.
Hmm.
I didn't know what to do. And then within the hour, another pastor that I'm familiar with, that Kayla had actually been familiar with the youth pastor at his church. They knew her by name. He came in with his wife to buy a toilet. So I'm working at plumbing at Home Depot. So I sell him the toilet, and then I wrote down her name on a piece of paper and I handed it to him at the end of our sale. And I said, if you could give this to Shadrach and have him pray for Kayla, he knows Kayla, and we're losing her. She's deep in addiction, and the devil won't get his hands off her, and I don't even know what
Hmm.
to do. And then so he talked with me a little bit, talked about Christian recovery programs, and then he prayed with me.
Okay.
And then I said, it's funny. He says, I said, I've never seen you in here before, and he says, yeah, I don't shop here. This is the first time in 4 years I've been in this store, so I felt like God sent him there.
Wow.
Well, what do you know? Within another hour, I turn a corner and there is that youth pastor I was mentioning. His name is Shadrach, and he's there. I go, I can't believe you're here. Pastor Jack was just here, and he's like, no, he wasn't. They don't shop here, and I don't shop here. And I said, I know, but I think God sent both of you here. And I told him. He said, how's Kayla? And I told him. And then so I mean, those were God opportunities that was only
Hmm.
God, and I just
For
took them very
sure.
personally in. And I felt encouraged and I felt reminded that God's still in control, that he's still in it. It might not be on my timing, but he was still at work,
Right.
my little girl. And so I went to my humanity group that night, just feeling like a whole nother person. And then from there, Pastor Nathan started mentoring me closely about trying to develop some boundaries here that would help Kayla, trying to help me see that harder boundaries would actually encourage her toward, toward being a place where God could get his hands on her. And it was hard. I couldn't go as far as to not have her live with me, but I did start. The only thing I would say to her, and this went on for a few weeks, was because at one quiet moment where she was sort of coming out of her a few days of recovery, before she went back out, she agreed to calling a certain Christian rehab. But she was just waiting for her boyfriend to get on board. She wanted both of them to go. So anyway, every day I would say, "Did you call? Did you call? Make the appointment? Did you call?" It was called Set Free Recovery Ranch over in Elsinore, and I haven't called yet. I haven't done yet. Just wait. And that's all you ever say. Why is that all you ever say now? And it was literally all I would say to her. I didn't even have conversations or say anything else. Just, have you made the call? And I kept the number out on the table or on the refrigerator where she could access it easily. It went on for weeks. Finally, we got to a time where they both came home and they were both crashed for the same 5 days. And I go, "You guys, it's great. You've got 5 days under you. Make the call, make the appointment. Let's get this going." And they did. And so they had an appointment to go on a Friday. We had to be there like by 7 or something. So I was so excited. So excited. Oh my God, the day is finally here. Yeah. And so I get up that morning early and we have a prayer warrior meeting on Friday mornings early at 7. So I get up and I go to the prayer warrior meeting and we're all celebrating because we've been praying for this for years.
Right.
And today's the day, Lord. Thank you. We have an appointment. They're going to go. They're, so excited and just praying over the day. And I get home and I walk in the door. All World War III had broken out in the house. She had thrown a big soup mug that I had cracked open his head. He was bleeding. He was laying on the ground bleeding, and she was screaming and yelling. And this rage that some reason sets in after their come down, it's just horrible. And they were just both enraged. There was all this fighting, and I was worried about his safety. He was really literally cut open, laying on the ground. So I had to push her out the gate. This is the only time I ever did that either. Pushed her out my gate and closed the gate. I go, "Kayla, you have to get out of here. I got to get him to the hospital. Just go." She goes, "What about Set Free? What about, going?" I go, "Right now I have to deal with making sure he's okay. You just go. I can't have the fighting." And she's like, and that was so risky for me because I thought, oh my God, I'm putting her out there. She's going to go use. That's the only way she's going to feel better, right? She's so upset. She's going to go use. Put him in the car, take him to emergency, and they take care of him. And I think I might have been in touch with her through Facebook Messenger or something. And I knew she was with one of their friends who, could have provided more meth for her, but she evidently wasn't using during the day. And at the end, 5 hours later, when I got out of the hospital, we gathered her up. She showed up and we were all here together, and they were still fighting though. And but I said, "Well, the suitcases are loaded. Let's get them in the car. Let's go." And so we got in the car. But that's not the end of the drama. The devil wasn't done yet. He wasn't letting them go that easily. So we're in the car. I got the suitcase all packed. We're in this car. I get over to the freeway. I'm at Mountain and the 60, pulling to the on-ramp, and they were fighting this whole time, fighting. I kept trying to say, "Just calm down, just be quiet, don't fight." He gets out of the car. He goes, "I'm not going." So then she gets out of the car and starts yelling at him to get back in. I'm on the on-ramp, mind you, and they're all walking away from me, and I'm stopped, and I'm standing there. "Come on, you guys, this is the day. This is the day. God told you. This is the day. We got to go." I don't know how that God got him back in the car. And so I started up again, and then Kayla was kicking the window and throwing things and yelling. And I'm just driving like this, like calm. And I'm looking out here to my shoulder and like, "Lord, help me. And he's like, I'm just calm, and she's all going crazy. But anyway, finally I was just like, "You know what? Let's just be quiet for 5 minutes. Let's just God just told me to just quiet in the car for 5 minutes, and we'll figure out. And he, meanwhile, has this bandage around his thing, and he's saying, I could just go next week after I get my stitches out. And she's like, yeah, next week. And I'm like, no, today's the day. Remember,
Hmm.
God told you, you told God today's the day. We're driving, and I get over the 15, and we had a few minutes of quiet. And next thing you know, she's in the back seat, and they're all getting along. We drove all the way to Elsinore, and I stopped at Arco, and we got all kinds of snacks and the junk food they like. And I get him over
Hmm.
there, and we take him to the men's side, and she says goodbye to him, and she goes to the women's, and that was it. They've been recovered ever since. Yeah,
Wow.
the Lord's taken them quite a long way, and the story of how they got where they are now is kind of neat too. But
So you, wow, wow, wow.
it
That's
wasn't
awesome.
easy.
Yeah. So that was that was 2017. You're saying she's been sober since then,
Yeah,
since
February
February
3rd.
3rd, 2017.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
which is coming up in like a few days. So when
I know.
this episode will get published, maybe we'll publish it on that day, a few days.
Yeah,
No, that's awesome. The timing of this is obviously
yeah,
God,
yeah.
divine, and I know we've been.
No,
That's
it's totally a
amazing.
God thing.
Yeah, for
I have
sure.
to tell you that
Yeah,
Set Free was a 2-month program, and they both
yeah.
worked the program. They weren't able to see each other a lot or anything, but they wrote letters. They lived next door, but they wrote letters. But
Aw.
I never dreamed that
Yeah,
they
yeah.
would both go into recovery, because that was
Right.
one of her conditions, that she wanted him to go to recovery too. And how do you do that? Usually when you have a couple that hook up and drugs, they're not both going to recover at the same time.
Yeah,
So that
gotcha.
was a God thing. And then after they were there and they went to the second phase, like they were there almost 5 months. But
Right.
what do you know, if meanwhile back at Home Depot over the years, I had two customers that were contractors. They would come in, and we got talking, and I was sharing my story. They were Christians, so I shared my story about Kayla and how broken I was and how worried, and God, and they were encouraging me a lot. And they said, we have a women's home, a men's and women's home at our church. I go, where's your church? And they said, over here by the golf course in Chino Hills. But I didn't know the area, didn't really know where the church was. So I was like, okay, and I never took it seriously. But became friendly with them. They've always knew me. Kayla and her boyfriend Matt are over there in San Bernardino at this transition house, trying to maintain their recovery. And things got a little dry there, and they weren't real. They didn't feel like they were growing spiritually anymore there. So God was calling them out anyway. And what do you know? If one of the guys from the two at Home Depot, one of the guys from that church was over there in San Bernardino ministering and handing out flyers for this men's home, and gave one and talked to Kayla and Matt. Next thing you know, I'm getting a call from them. Yeah, we want to go to a different recovery home, a discipleship home over in Chino. And I'm like, okay. And so I picked them up and we moved them. I went to the church, and I go to the church with them. And I'm looking, and there's the two I was talking to. One was the pastor, and the other was the worship leader. And I was like, what?
Hmm.
So after
Yeah, that's
service, I'm
awesome.
like, oh my gosh, I go, all these years I've known you, or all these months anyway. And I never knew you were the pastor. I didn't know. He goes, no, yeah, this is it. I go, well, God brought him here. You've always invited me to bring him. I didn't know where you guys were. But yeah, so that's where they are now. And they've been there for these 5 or 6 years. And Matthew, her boyfriend, is the men's director with like 30 men,
Wow.
under him. And Kayla's was the women's director for a bit. And she is quite an encouragement in helping to serve other women that come in. And that's why she's chosen to stay there, because she feels God's really using her there. And she's still growing too and learning,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I saw her. I know I've seen her a couple of times at
yeah,
I know the karaoke in September. I got to see her. That's we took that
yeah,
picture together.
yeah,
And then I feel like I've seen her at least 3 or 4 times in the last couple of years or something.
yeah,
But wow,
yeah.
I can't believe it's been that long. I didn't
I
realize it was
know.
that long. I thought I thought maybe 3 years or something, like a few
Yeah.
years. Because I
Well,
didn't start. Yeah, I met you in 2018, so
yeah, yeah.
that was when I
Well,
started
the
coming to
first,
church. But,
when they first went
mhm.
down to this, the discipleship home where they are, Kayla was there 6 to 8 months, and felt strong, and came out, and she was actually working. She bought a car. She was engaged in life, and ministering to people and whatnot. But she ended up voluntarily, she said, Mom, I just feel like there's more God needs to do in me, because she still had some depression and some rejection and some, other whatever things that God wanted to do work in her. So
Yeah.
she left her job and she left everything, and she was doing really well. But she just felt like she needed more work and wanted a stronger foundation, to
Yeah.
come out and do. So God's really been in charge, and I'm so glad that she's yielding to His guidance and all that, because it's not easy to separate yourself
Yeah.
and go into programs like this. But she just is really blessed. She has a real barn of the spirit where she wants to nurture and encourage others, and the women tell me, what a blessing she is to them.
Yeah.
So
Oh, of course.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, she's amazing, and I haven't
yeah,
spent a ton of time with her, but anytime I'm with her, I'm
yeah,
just like, yeah, I'd love to hang out more and just talk to you.
yeah,
I do remember her when I first started Monday nights, September 2019, and she was there when we were meeting at the
yeah,
castle, you know.
yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
remember her. I remember Chris Herrera and
That's right.
Stevie. I had Stevie on the
Yeah,
podcast in over the summer, and that's when I first met her too. I remember
yeah.
talking to her
Well,
like,
that's another
yeah,
coincidental thing. Another God moment was
yeah.
Stevie and Kayla had met in one of her jail runs. When she was in jail, they were both in there,
Oh,
and they
okay.
were talking to each other a little bit. And Kayla was talking about the Lord and encouraging Stevie a lot of that. Anyway, it was a really cute story.
Yeah.
When we went to the church in Chino Hills here, they saw each other and they're like, "Oh, I know you, and I know you." So they
Right.
become best friends. But their first encounter was in this, not so great circumstance of being in jail, and then they ran into each other at church, the same church, and they're both there. It's really
That's
neat.
awesome.
I
I knew
know.
they knew each other. I knew they were
Yeah,
friends. I didn't know that.
yeah,
Okay, so yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing all of this because it's just really wonderful to get to connect with
yeah,
you in this way. And so at the beginning, you had said about the hope and the hopeless situations, right? And
yeah,
obviously now there's a lot of light in Kayla's
yeah,
life and hope, and she's giving back, which is part of the 12 steps, right? That's one of the steps is like eventually you get to
yeah.
a point where you give back, and that looks different for everybody. It might not mean like leading a
Right.
meeting or whatever. It looks like just
Yeah,
fit for service, to quote Aubrey Marcus. But like, yeah, I
yeah,
think the idea here is when
yeah,
I always have people say like what's their advice, and I know you're kind of in this like support role, which is very relevant for a lot
yeah,
of parents or families, mental health,
yeah,
any kind of struggle. There's always a support person, but what is your kind of
yeah,
closing advice or hope that you would give to the people who are kind of
yeah,
like you, where like their kid is struggling, they don't know
yeah,
what to do, maybe they're banging their head against the wall, maybe they
yeah,
have a faith or low faith or no faith, you know.
yeah,
But
yeah,
love is powerful. They have the love, but also I think it's not just love. It's also like what else can there be? You know, you can't make
yeah.
people change,
Well,
like
well,
you're
love
saying.
love can
Yeah,
destroy too. So it's
yeah,
two-edged sword there. But
right,
yeah, it's really easy to say, "Oh, don't give up hope," but
right,
you can't just decide to have hope, or give up hope. That's just not enough. I think what's most important is all of my healing times and my times of growth and sustenance and strength building came from community. It's easy to isolate in this horror.
right.
Uh, so many times during that period of time, I felt alone and like nobody else understands. Nobody else, I can't let anybody else see this, or, whatever it is that we isolate. And that's just the enemy's way of keeping us down and connecting with people. It's like, might be the hardest thing to do, but reach out, look around you. There's God, He's got people around you that are there for you. Um, don't wait for them to come and, knock on your door. You got to reach out and you got to put yourself places where you can get support. Basically, that's mainly it, is support. But I will say this, that when you feel hopeless, when you look at it and it looks like totally destroyed and it can never be rebuilt, just remember this story because it can totally be rebuilt
Right.
and to something more beautiful. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah, that's
yeah,
beautiful. Well, yeah, I mean, it's it- I don't know what the stats are, right? There's big percentage
yeah,
of people who deal with addiction on all kinds of levels, and for some people it doesn't go into
yeah,
a lot of chaos, but
yeah.
it's chase the dragon or something. I heard on someone sharing their story. I was like, I think that that's like an addiction
Uh-huh.
term, but like,
Uh,
yeah, once when you're a little kid, you're not dreaming of screwing up your brain when you're older or something.
no,
Right?
yeah,
You're not like,
no, not at all.
oh, I want to do a substance, or I want to
No,
drink, or I want to be reckless
no,
with my sexuality, or whatever it
no,
is. No one
no.
dreams of it. It's just that
Yeah, yeah,
there's so, but yeah, I
yeah,
appreciate your courage and your bravery of
yeah.
your
Well, she wrote a
beautiful.
beautiful recovery
Yeah.
poem. Yeah,
Oh
during
yeah,
her,
you sent that to me. I'll put that in the video.
yeah,
Yeah,
to be
yeah,
great. And
yeah.
also, another neat thing was one of her trips to jail. She was so upset, and she asked the officer if he could. No, he put on the Christian station,
Okay.
and she was really mad about that. Really mad about that because she knew the songs and they were ministering to her, and she was
Okay.
just so upset. But she asked him to turn it down. And he's like, no, I'm not going to turn it down. Well, his name was Officer Tillman. And later, years later, last year, she made a little video for him, thanking him for playing that song. It really changed her heart, that night and this and that. And he just really was blessed by it. He said he really appreciated that this is my why. He posted it on his Instagram. He's got a big organization. I think it's Breaking Bad United or something, but he's a
Okay.
well-known officer. But I just thought it's sweet. Her left a mark in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah, I had an experience the very first hospitalization when I was at the House of Prayer, the local hospital there. I was there on my 27th birthday, but my mom flew in, and my they let us they let my friends visit, and they let them bring a guitar, so my friends were like musicians
yeah,
and stuff, and so they started singing the song for me, and then one of the residents had she's like had the lyrics to Gunger Beautiful Things. You probably heard that
yeah.
song. Can you guys play this song for me, please? It's we had like a little mini like worship session in the hospital. Like my
That's
friend
great.
Bruce is like praying for this guy, talking to him about his anger. It's like, but it was just total kind of God's like favor,
Yeah,
because they usually let like one visitor in, or there's a limit, and they're like, oh, no instruments, and they let us bring in a guitar. So that's beautiful, but
that's
makes me
beautiful.
think of that. But so you're doing Monday nights, you're a women's director, you're faithful to that, and you're a faithful member of Humanity
Yeah,
Church.
we have a Thursday night group too at
Yeah,
the
and you
lodge.
have your group
Yeah,
on Thursdays. So Mondays and
yeah.
Thursdays, you're so yeah. Is do you want to say anything about that? So Thursday night is just it's a you've been doing that
Thursday
for a
nights, yeah,
while,
it's a
right? Yeah.
beautiful place to be known, to be heard, and to share, and to learn how to share, and to learn how to be in community with others, because that's just the key to our, you know, abundant life is being in community with others.
Right.
And it's easy to go to church and then go home and not really be connected in a personal way. So what we do there is we connect and we encourage one
Right.
another, allow the Lord to come in and connect us and to heal our wounds and
Yeah.
encourage us and strengthen us to go forward. And then study scripture, of course. And then our group in particular, we eat very well every week. We share,
We-
we break bread.
there
Yeah,
you go.
yeah,
That's
and
yeah, okay.
it's really a nice time. Yeah, and we all
Yeah.
participate and we all contribute.
That's
So
cool.
yeah,
What are you guys studying right now? We're doing Nehemiah in our group. We just started that like a few weeks ago.
yeah.
So
We aren't on a particular book at the moment, but we've been doing different topics every week, and
nice.
we share the scripture. Each person gets a chance. We go around
Okay.
and whatever's
Yeah.
on their heart to share with the group. We might get into a book soon.
Cool.
But right now we're just, yeah, the Lord's been giving us things that are pertinent to what we're going through. Two of our group members, like today, we're in special prayer for them because one of them's having surgery and the other one's the mom. So
Oh, wow.
um,
Okay. A
things
lot
that have
going
encouraged
on
people
for
through
sure.
their issues. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Sally, the timing of this is great.
Yeah.
Appreciate all the texting that we've done, and
Yeah.
I know that just look with a lot of people, it's like it takes usually a few months anyway to get it
Okay.
done. So,
Yeah.
but no, it's all good. Life is. I'm not. I'm just
Yeah.
grateful for anybody that wants to be on. It's I'm not like,
Yeah.
hey, let's do
Well,
this now. I've
well,
been,
thank you. Thank
you
you for
know,
your patience and your
yeah,
kindness
of
and
course. No,
actually
yeah, it's all good.
for your ministry because this is great what you're doing. You're giving back to the world what,
Thank you.
what you
Well,
can. And
I'm not glad that I broke my foot, but it has given me
no,
some time to kind of get to do some of this. And
catch up.
I'm an
Yeah.
extrovert by nature, so this is the same thing
Yeah.
as going out and having
Yeah.
coffee with someone. But thank you.
Yeah. That's
Thank you
true.
for your encouragement. I do this
Yeah.
because
Well,
I
prayers
believe
for your
this.
healing on your foot.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, it's going. I got a follow-up appointment next week. But okay, well, I took a lot of
Okay.
notes. I'll send
Okay.
you a message about getting some stuff for you for when I publish this. But now that I know that February 3rd is the day, then
Yeah.
I was planning on publishing this soon anyway. So that's
Okay.
cool that the timing is like,
Yeah. Just in
we'll
time.
make sure to do it by in the next few days. So all
Okay.
right, well, I'll let
Thanks.
you go.
Bye.
Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, Jared.
I love you a
Love
lot.
you too.
Thank you.
Thank
It's an
you.
honor to hear your story. I love Josh. He's like a brother, so you did a good job with him. And I know you
Oh,
haven't
thanks to God.
that I haven't fully met everyone, but Josh is a brother. So
Yeah.
all right, okay. Well, have a
Thank you.
good rest of your day, and we'll be in touch.
Hey, you as well. Bye.
All right. Bye. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the show. Thank you, Sally, for sharing. But before the episode's done, I want to play a clip of Kayla, a poem she wrote. It's called Finally Free, and it's about a minute and some seconds long, and we're going to play that right now.
Okay, go. Looking forward with fear I stare. Once and for all, I finally care. I lost my family, my friends are few. You've controlled my life, but now I'm through. I'm finally strong and I'm going to fight. With God by my side, I'll make things right. I've walked in darkness and entertained demons with my blindness, my arrogance, my hustling and scheming. I lost all my love and abandoned my hope. All I wanted was a fix and to find some more dope. My happiness coming from smoke in a glass to forget and erase the pain of my past. With every hit, I made you strong. I stayed weak for far too long. I was blinded by hatred and deaf to love. I cut out and pushed away my Father above. I fell for the lies of the dark principalities. I got sucked into a world of fear and calamity. But my loving Father saw me through. He did for me what I could not do. He gave me strength to carry on. He gave me a reason to sing a new song. I'm taking back all you stole. My life, my love, my world, my soul. Today's the day I leave this jail, so take your demons and go to hell. The end of this road would have been death, but I'm now looking forward. Goodbye, Crystal Meth. Wow.
Wow. Amazing, Kayla. I can't wait to see you again. I know I got to see you back in September at the karaoke for Celebrate Life. Sally, thank you again for being a guest on the podcast. I know we've been talking about this for a while, but as I said in the beginning, the timing of this is perfect because February 2017 is February 3rd, which is very soon, right around the corner. Celebration of Kayla, and thank you for sharing the poem Finally Free. I love it. Using our creativity to make poems, stories, podcasts, it's all great. And all glory to God and community and love and patience and hope in the darkness. So thank you again, Sally. Thank you, Kayla. It's an honor to hear your story on here. And thank you to everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.